Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. We're thrilled you're joining us for an exploration that really promises to profoundly shift how you think about connection and career. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a truly transformative read.
Absolutely. Yeah, our source material is based on powerful excerpts from Never Eat Alone and Other Secrets to Success, One Relationship at a Time by Keith Ferrazzi and Tal Raz. And this deep dive, it isn't simply about professional networking in the old sense. It's really about understanding the profound impact relationships have on every facet of our lives. Everything from our career trajectories to, our personal well-being too.
That's a fantastic way to frame it. It's like imagine gaining a strategic shortcut to being incredibly well-informed on something that affects literally everyone, no matter your field or aspirations. Our mission today is to extract the most potent insights, those surprising facts, and really actionable strategies from these sources, helping you truly unlock the power of human connection. So as we kind of open the book, what's the foundational philosophy, the core idea that immediately stands out to you? What's central to Ferrazzi's message?
Well, what's truly striking right from the get-go is how the authors immediately challenge those conventional notions of, individual success. They assert that relationships are all there is. Everything in the universe only exists because it is in relationship to everything else. Now, this isn't just presented as like a business principle or some self-help mantra. It's framed as a fundamental philosophy. The source even quotes Margaret Wheatley saying we have to stop pretending we are individuals that can go it alone. And that immediately reframes the entire discussion, doesn't it? It pushes us way beyond simple networking to this holistic view of human interdependence. Connection as the very fabric of existence and, the engine of all achievement.
That's a very bold assertion. Relationships are all there is. I mean, for someone who's always focused on individual achievement, maybe grinding away on their own, that might sound quite challenging, right? So what does this truly mean for someone navigating their career and life today? How does the book kind of illustrate it?
To reconnect this to the bigger picture, it profoundly implies that success in really every imaginable field isn't about isolated effort. It's not about trying to go it alone. The authors use their own journeys to illuminate this. Take Ferrazzi's early struggles, for instance, as a first-year Harvard Business School student. He talks about feeling completely intimidated by his peers, people who had these impressive pedigrees and legacies coming from wealthy families, elite firms. And he quickly realized that his traditional networking efforts, which were often kind of transactional, they just weren't cutting it. So they had to evolve into what he called a conscious construction of his life's path.
A conscious construction.
Yeah, and this shift in perspective, it was all about connecting, specifically sharing his knowledge and resources, his time and energy, friends and associates, and even empathy and compassion. The idea was to continually provide value to others, with the understanding that this generosity would almost incidentally increase his own opportunities and well-being. So this powerfully redefined success as deeply intertwined with who you know and, maybe more importantly, how genuinely and generously you engage with them. It highlights that people do business with people they know and like.
Right. That makes sense.
And even beyond business, our overall well-being and sense of happiness is dictated in large part by the support and guidance and love we get for the community we build for ourselves. So the core insight here, I think, is that your personal and professional flourishing is a collective thing rather than an individual endeavor. True success isn't built in isolation. It's co-created through a vibrant network of authentic relationships.
That's a powerful shift, isn't it? From transactional to deeply relational. It makes me wonder, though, how does this actually translate into concrete opportunities? The source shares this really remarkable anecdote about Keith's early career at Deloitte that really drives this point home. So despite getting low marks in his first annual review, apparently, because he wasn't doing what was expected with enough gusto, his supervisors, people he'd already built strong relationships with, and his mentors, too, including the CEO, Pat LoCanto, they had a dramatically different idea.
Right, they didn't just let him go.
Exactly. They didn't fire him. Instead, they, quote, cooked up a job description that previously did not exist at the company. This new role, basically custom created for him, gave him a $150,000 expense account to do what he loved, developing business, representing the firm through speaking, engaging with the press. And this approach ultimately made him the company's chief marketing officer and, get this, the youngest person ever tapped for partner.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So this isn't just about getting a promotion. It's about relationships literally creating entirely new, exciting opportunities where none existed before. And it allowed him to do work that was genuinely fun and fulfilling for him. It really emphasizes that connecting isn't about managing transactions, like you said. It's about cultivating these deep, supportive relationships that can literally reshape your path.
Yeah, absolutely. And this raises a really critical question then. If relationships are indeed a form of currency, what defines its true value system? The source introduces a powerful and honestly somewhat counterintuitive concept. The currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity.
Hmm.
And along with that, a foundational rule: never keep score.
Never keep score. That's tough for some people.
It really is. It's predicated on this almost karma-tinged vision of how the world works, where the more people you help, the more help you'll have, and the more help you'll have helping others. And this isn't just presented as a feel-good sentiment. It's framed as a proven dynamic in the world of networks. It suggests that by giving freely, you build a kind of social capital that returns to you, often in unexpected ways and from unexpected sources. It makes the entire network more valuable. So the profound insight here is, social capital isn't a fixed pie. It's a constantly expanding resource. The more you give without expectation, the exponentially greater your own access and opportunities become.
That concept of never keeping score, it really does run counter to so much conventional business thinking, doesn't it? It's fascinating. The book shares these frustrating examples of people who actually refuse help when it's offered. Why? Because they fear obligation or they think they can't immediately repay a favor. The authors argue this shows a profound blindness about how things work. It's about recognizing the mutual need within a functioning network. A really powerful example of this spirit is Jack Pigeon, Ferrazzi's high school headmaster at Kapuskis.
Oh yeah, that story.
Right. Jack apparently built the entire institution by consistently asking, "How can I help you?" rather than the more self-serving, "How can you help me?" The spirit of giving, even when it might feel like you're using your equity, as the book puts it, actually builds more equity in the long run. The source recounts how Jack helped young Keith get a scholarship to private school, and later how he introduced him to influential people for a summer job. These acts of connection, born from genuine generosity, ultimately led to both Keith's success and, the transformation of Keith's school into this thriving institution. It's an incredibly impactful idea that giving without expectation really solidifies trust and builds these lasting foundations.
Yeah, and this connects so deeply to the fundamental shift in the modern work world. The source references William White's The Organization Man from way back in 1956, a time when loyalty was primarily given to corporations in exchange for, job security. But today, with lifetime corporate employment dead, the book argues that loyalty and security must now be found not in a single company, but in a web of our own relationships.
That makes a lot of sense in today's world.
It does. This is a more personal generosity, extended to colleagues, friends, customers. It's no longer about blind loyalty to an institution, but a conscious, ongoing investment in the people around you. And what's more, this isn't just some sentimental notion. The book stresses it's science. It highlights that in the past 10 years, neuroscientists, psychologists, and economists have made quantum leaps in understanding why some of us flourish and others do not. And what's become clear is that we're not just connected to others. We are the very product of the people and networks we're connected to. Who you know determines who you are, how you feel, how you act, and what you achieve.
Wow, we are the product of the people. That's deep.
It is. And just briefly, the why behind the science. Research shows how positive social interaction releases neurochemicals like oxytocin and dopamine.
Yeah.
It literally wires our brains to seek and reinforce generosity and connection. It makes these interactions chemically rewarding and, frankly, essential for our well-being. There's this anecdote about David who refused to make an introduction, wanting to save that equity for myself, that perfectly illustrates the blindness the authors talk about.
Right, you didn't get it.
Exactly. David didn't understand that it's the exercising of equity that builds equity. He lost an opportunity to strengthen his whole network by not being generous. So the key insight is, our brains are hardwired for connection, making generosity not just an ethical choice, but a biological imperative for thriving. Especially in a world where security now lies in our human networks, not just corporate structures.
Okay, so if we're aiming to be generous, not keeping score, how do we actually initiate these connections, especially without coming across as, opportunistic or just awkward? The book champions something it calls the genius of audacity. It recounts this truly inspiring story of Ferrazzi's own father, Pete, who was an uneducated steelworker. Despite knowing nothing about country clubs or private schools, Pete apparently had this innate understanding of how the world worked. He saw that audacity was often the only thing that separated two equally talented men and their job titles.
That's a powerful observation.
Hasn't it? So he boldly approached Alex McKenna, the CEO of Kennametal, his boss's boss's boss, just to ask for a meeting for his son, Keith. And that audacious act, that simple ask, led young Keith to scholarships at places like Yale and Harvard. It just highlights that sometimes simply asking with conviction is the crucial first step.
Yeah, what's truly compelling there is the underlying message. Don't let the fear of rejection hold you back. It's easier said than done, of course. The author openly admits he still feels the fear that they might reject me every single time he makes a cold call or introduces himself to someone new.
Even now, wow.
Even now. Yet he draws strength from his father's fearless example. He remembers a time when his dad saw a broken big-wheel tricycle in someone's trash. He stopped the car, picked it up, knocked on the door, and just asked if he could have it for his kids. It illustrates that he simply couldn't be embarrassed when it came to fulfilling his family's needs. And that translates directly to networking. You have to be out there in the mix all the time.
So how do you build that muscle, that confidence?
Well, the source suggests practical steps. Things like learning to speak publicly through organizations like Toastmasters. Those clubs provide a non-intimidating space to practice, and they help millions hone speaking skills and overcome shyness. Also, getting involved in hobbies or community leadership things where you share enthusiasm with others, that's crucial. By becoming an active member, maybe eventually a leader, you gain invaluable practice, expand your opportunities for making your contacts, and just get comfortable reaching out. It's about viewing meeting new people as a challenge, maybe even an opportunity, sparking your competitive fires to overcome that shyness. The core insight really is, audacity, when it's fueled by genuine purpose, is often the differentiator. Don't let the fear of a no stop you from asking for the yes.
That's powerful. Okay, so boldness is essential. But how do we translate this mindset into actual, concrete action? How do we build connections more systematically? The book gives us this powerful, concrete tool, the Relationship Action Plan, or RAP. It's about turning those sometimes vague career aspirations into disciplined dreams with a clear mission. So how exactly does this RAP work? What's the roadmap?
Right. This brings up the important role of intention and structure in building meaningful relationships. It's not just haphazard. The RAP is presented as a three-part process. First, you define your goals, making sure they align with your overarching mission. So, for example, Ferrazzi himself started with specific early political ambitions, like becoming governor of Pennsylvania. Or later at Deloitte, his mission was to become an expert in re-engineering, closely following Michael Hammer's work. He'd read every case study, go to every conference.
Really immerse himself.
Yeah. Totally. He meticulously turned Hammer from just a subject of study into, eventually, a pupil and friend. So that's part one. Clear goals linked to a mission. Part two is connecting those goals to specific people, places, and things that can help you achieve them. This means identifying individuals who have the knowledge, the influence, the connections you need. And then part three focuses on figuring out the best way to reach out. Always leading with generosity.
Always generosity first.
Always. The source really emphasizes that your goals have to be specific, believable, and also challenging and demanding. It's about making goal setting a regular habit and having the conviction to put your intentions to paper. Because, as it says, an unwritten wish is just a dream. In writing, it's a commitment, a goal. Ferrazzi's own detailed goal setting back in college, like founding a Sigma Chi chapter specifically because it had a strong alumni network of politicians, illustrates this commitment. He learned to differentiate himself by having that clear focus, like becoming the re-engineering expert at Deloitte, which, as we know, led to his rapid career rise. The key takeaway here is, a structured, written relationship action plan transforms vague aspirations into actionable steps. It links your biggest goals directly to the people who can help, always initiated with that spirit of generosity.
Okay, so what does this actually mean for someone maybe wanting to make a big career shift? Or even, like, a profound life transformation? The story of Virginia Fables is just a perfect real-world example of this RAP in action. It's really inspiring. At 44, she decides she wants to go from being a hairdresser to becoming an engineer.
Wow, that's a huge leap.
Huge. And despite facing immediate naysayers telling her it couldn't be done and battling her own self-doubt, she said their negativity only fueled her resolve. So she buckled down, learned algebra, which she didn't know in a few months, applied, and got into Bucknell University's civil engineering program. She even failed her first physics test but just refused to quit, pushed through sleepless nights, low grades, and eventually she graduated at 48, an astonishing feat.
That takes incredible determination.
Absolutely. And her network grew alongside this. She connected with her former boss at the Chamber of Commerce, whom she later married, and she ultimately became chairperson of the Planning Commission, a role where she used to just take notes as a secretary. Her story is described as a Cliff's Notes guide to career management, where a bold mission and a commitment to reach out to others combine to create opportunities previously unavailable. It really shows the RIP isn't just for, business executives. It's a blueprint for anyone seeking profound personal and professional transformation. It reminds us that change is hard, yeah, but it's possible with discipline and connections. Even Bill Clinton, apparently, as an undergrad at Georgetown, diligently recorded names and vital info of everyone he met on index cards each night. That shows the power of structured relationship building early on. So this highlights that disciplined goal setting combined with audacious, relationship-focused action can open doors you never imagined, regardless of your starting point.
It's truly striking, isn't it, how much opportunity we might overlook just by not looking in the right places. And what's fascinating here is that you don't necessarily need to constantly seek out entirely new people to expand your influence. That can be exhausting. The source highlights a crucial point. Your potential for connecting is at this moment far bigger than you realize. It strongly encourages exploring what it calls these golden opportunities to develop relationships with people you know, who know people you don't know, who know even more people.
Like layers of connection.
Exactly. This perspective shifts the focus from always hunting for new contacts to intelligently leveraging the vast, often untapped resources within your existing network. It's about understanding that every connection you already have serves as a gateway, a portal, to an entirely new set of individuals, effectively multiplying your reach. The central idea is, the most valuable, often untapped connections frequently lie right within your current network, your backyard treasures, just waiting to be cultivated.
So let's dig into this idea of backyard treasures.
Hmm.
What does that look like practically? It means starting by looking at your immediate network. Friends of friends, old acquaintances from school, family. The book puts it very simply. Everyone from your family to your mailman is a portal to an entirely new set of folks. This really emphasizes the importance of gardening now, as they call it, consciously creating that community of colleagues and friends before you need it. And the rationale is clear, right? Others around you are far more likely to help you if they already know and like you.
Makes perfect sense. Build the well before you're thirsty.
Exactly. The source illustrates this with the story of George, a young guy wanting to start his own PR business. Instead of waiting until it was established, Keith advised him to immediately start getting to know potential clients, not as customers yet, but as friends. Maybe even offer his services for free initially, perhaps volunteering for a nonprofit they're involved with. This kind of strategic giving, leveraging existing and new connections, builds trust. It allows you to potentially turn one of your contacts into a real paying client while you're still employed, hedging your bets for a successful transition. It's about cultivating those connections proactively, so when opportunity knocks or when you need help, your network is actually ready and willing to support you. The takeaway is, proactively nurturing your existing relationships, offering help and value even when you don't immediately need something, creates a robust support system that will be there when you need it most. Okay, let's talk about something many of us actively dread. The cold call. It's almost synonymous with rejection, awkward. The source actually says, quite emphatically, cold calls are for suckers. I don't call cold ever. Ooh. The book is pretty blunt there, just to underscore how ineffective that traditional, unsourced outreach can be. But this next concept is really compelling. It's all about mastering warm calling strategies. So what are these specific rules that transform that dreaded cold call into something, well, much more effective and maybe even comfortable?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the essence of warm calling is really about immediately establishing credibility and demonstrating value to the person you're trying to reach. You're not just coming out of nowhere. The source outlines 4 critical rules for this. First, you absolutely must convey credibility right away. How? By mentioning a familiar person or institution. So in an example shared, Keith might say, John Smith mentioned you, or reference someone like Jeff Arnold, the founder of WebMD.
Borrowing credibility.
Exactly. It instantly gives you an in by drafting off the brand or trust of someone already known to the recipient. Second, you need to state your value proposition clearly and concisely. And crucially, it's about what can you do for them. The focus is entirely on the benefit to the other person, not on your own needs. Third, you must impart agency and convenience. Signal that you're prepared to meet on their terms whenever, wherever is most convenient for them. Show flexibility. And finally, number 4, you should offer a compromise that secures a definite follow-up, even if the initial meeting doesn't happen right away. Maybe suggest a brief phone call if a meeting isn't possible, just ensuring the conversation continues.
Okay, those 4 rules make sense. But what about the gatekeepers, the assistants? How do you navigate that?
That's a great question, and the book addresses it. It emphasizes persistence, but definitely not annoyance. Keith often called it unusual times, like maybe 8 p.o. or A0 or 6 p.m., when busy people might be more likely to pick up their own phones. And he'd leave messages that subtly built rapport and expectation without being demanding. But this raises that really important question. How do you get past those assistants and gatekeepers who often shield busy executives? The core insight here is, transform cold calls into warm calls by leveraging existing connections for credibility, immediately offering value to the recipient, demonstrating flexibility, and always securing a clear next step.
And the source offers some really invaluable advice on navigating those often tricky waters of dealing with administrative assistants and gatekeepers. It really reveals their immense influence. It recounts Keith's own struggle with Mary, who was Pat LeConto's administrative assistant at Deloitte. He learned a critical lesson there. Assistants are more than just helpful associates. If they're any good, they become trusted friends, advocates, and integral parts of their professional and even personal lives.
They hold a lot of power, really.
They really do. Initially, Keith apparently had a difficult relationship with Mary, kind of through his own assistant, Jennifer. But his CEO, Pat, pulled him aside and basically told him he was being stupid, that Mary runs this place when it comes to access and scheduling, and that he should smooth things over with Mary, whatever it takes. That realization totally transformed his approach. And the example of Kent Blossel, that Newsweek ad sales rep, demonstrates this masterfully. Kent would call Jennifer, Keith's assistant, weekly. He wasn't just persistent, he was, quote, deferential and overwhelmingly kind. He'd surprise her with thoughtful gestures like chocolates or flowers.
Building a real connection with the assistant.
Exactly. Jennifer, feeling genuinely respected and appreciated, then persisted in getting Kent scheduled. Even when Keith kept canceling, she advocated for him, until Keith finally relented. And when they finally met, Kent used that in brilliantly. He immediately offered to introduce Keith to Newsweek's senior editors, a significant value prop for Keith, who relied on media coverage. This is described as social arbitrage at its finest. That's a powerful concept, isn't it? Strategically leveraging your network, using connections and insights like valuable currency to facilitate beneficial exchanges, connecting people who wouldn't otherwise meet, creating value for everyone involved. So the key takeaway is absolutely crucial. Gatekeepers are not obstacles. They are vital allies. Their trust and respect must be earned through genuine deference, consistent value, and thoughtful appreciation. Okay, moving on. The very title of the book, Never Eat Alone, it hints at this core principle that seems incredibly simple, right? Just sharing a meal. Yet, according to the source, it holds immense power. What's the hidden strength? What's the profound impact in something as seemingly mundane as that?
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the emphasis on combating invisibility. The source states it pretty unequivocally. Invisibility is a fate far worse than failure. So, eating alone, then, isn't just a missed social opportunity. It's framed as a missed strategic one. And while the digital age gives us all these tools for connection, social media, and whatnot, the book really emphasizes that it's not the same as sitting with people, talking, and catching up.
There's just something different about being face-to-face.
Absolutely. In fact, it argues that the more bloated our virtual communities become, the more that people are going to use in-person contact as a filter for true relevance. It's honestly astonishing how much more you can learn about someone outside the structured office environment, whether it's over a casual meal or maybe engaging in a shared hobby like golf, which is described maybe a bit hyperbolically as the true hub of America's business elite. These informal settings allow people to loosen up. They reveal more of their authentic selves, fostering deeper understanding and connection than, well, any virtual interaction really could. The source also says our passion draws other people to who we are and what we care about. Sharing that passion in person creates this contagious energy that just breaks down barriers. So the core insight is, in a digitally saturated world, in-person interactions, particularly over shared activities like meals or hobbies, become the ultimate filter for building true relevance and deep, authentic connections.
Okay, that makes sense. But this raises an important question. How do we actually facilitate these crucial in-person connections beyond just, grabbing a quick lunch? The book offers this great menu of connecting opportunities that are surprisingly varied and actionable. Things like attending conferences, yeah, but with a commando mindset, actively seeking out key contacts, organizing side meetings, not just wandering around.
Being intentional about it.
Exactly. It suggests inviting people to share a workout or engage in a hobby together, like golf or chess, where that casual shared activity breaks down the professional barriers. Beyond that, quick early breakfasts, lunches, drinks after work, dinners, those are kind of the staples for breaking the ice. The authors also encourage inviting people to special events, like maybe a night at the theater or a book signing, making the occasion more special by sharing it. And a particularly intimate and effective method mentioned is hosting dinner parties at home. Viewing these as almost sacred events where you invite maybe only one or two new people to integrate them into your existing circle of friends and your anchor tenants.
Yeah, those influential individuals in your network who naturally attract others.
And finally, volunteering together is highlighted as a really powerful way to connect through shared passion for a cause. The key to all of these opportunities is finding what you're passionate about and sharing it because, as the source says, our passion draws other people to who we are and what we care about. This highlights that the opportunities for in-person connection are practically endless when you leverage shared passions and create these intimate, informal settings.
Right, and once you make that initial connection, the source is incredibly direct, almost blunt, about the importance of what comes next. Follow-up is the key to success in any field. This isn't just framed as good etiquette, it's positioned as a strategic imperative. Why? To ensure a new acquaintance retains your name and the favorable impression you've created. The advice is specific. Follow up quickly within 12 to 24 hours. That soon. If you meet someone on a plane, email them that day. After cocktails, email the next morning. That promptness is crucial in our world of information overload, where people are just constantly bombarded. And this principle isn't just for sealing business deals, it's about actively nurturing your blooming garden of friends and associates to prevent those connections from just withering away. When following up, Ferrazzi emphasizes reiterating any commitments made and suggesting a second follow-up meeting. Even trying to get it in writing, like on the calendar, to solidify that next step. The core insight is really stark. Immediate and strategic follow-up isn't just polite, it's the absolute non-negotiable step that transforms a fleeting introduction into a budding, lasting relationship.
And this next strategy, this is where it gets really interesting for the listener. It offers a way to make your follow-up not just effective, but truly memorable. The author suggests citing something particular we talked about, whether a shared hobby or business interest, that serves as a mental reminder of who I am. This moves way beyond a generic, nice to meet you, and really solidifies the connection because it demonstrates you were truly engaged, you were actually listening.
It shows you care, basically.
Exactly. The book explicitly asks, why go to all the trouble of meeting new people if you're not going to work on making them a part of your life? It's a real call to action to integrate new contacts into your world. The importance of consistent pinging, those quick casual greetings through calls, emails, social media is emphasized. But there's a clear distinction made. While social media is great for maintaining the fringe of your network for general updates, that one-to-one pinging is essential for your highest priority connections. And get this, the source even suggests avoiding generic holiday cards.
Really? Why is that?
Because, as it says, it's hard to differentiate yourself from the other 150 people doing the same thing. Instead, focus your energy on birthdays. Don't kid yourself. Everyone cares about his or her birthday. It's presented as a personal touch that truly stands out. Keith recounts asking Kent Blosill, remember the Newsweek rep who successfully navigated his gatekeepers? He asked for his birth date. It seems like a simple act, but it allows for a meaningful and memorable ping later on that really resonates with people's, deepest desire to feel special and remembered. So the takeaway here is personalized, consistent follow-up, especially through authentic, memorable gestures like a birthday wish, is like the miracle grow for transforming new acquaintances into valuable, enduring relationships. Okay, so beyond all the tactical advice, how to meet people, how to follow up, the book also gets into the crucial mindset needed for true, lasting connection. It emphasizes being yourself and embracing vulnerability. Now that sounds pretty counterintuitive, doesn't it? Especially in a competitive professional world where we're often taught to project strength and, perfection.
Yeah, it really does sound counterintuitive at first. But what's fascinating here is the assertion that vulnerability, yes, vulnerability is one of the most underappreciated assets in business today. The source directly challenges that old school notion that showing emotion or compassion is some kind of weakness you need to hide. Instead, it argues that power today comes from sharing information, not withholding it. It's about being honest, open, and vulnerable enough to genuinely allow other people into your life so that they can be vulnerable in return. This is really about transcending that superficial, boring chit-chat and taking the risk of revealing the real you. And the worst that can happen, the authors argue, is that the other person doesn't respond in kind. And if that's the case, they probably weren't worth knowing in the first place.
That's a bold take.
It is. The source references researcher Brené Brown's work, which highlights that vulnerability is not weakness, and dispelling those myths about it is crucial for courage and connection. Brown suggests things like practicing gratitude and believing we're enough as ways to overcome that terror of vulnerability. The insight here is really profound. Authentic vulnerability, far from being a weakness, is actually a powerful accelerant for trust and genuine connection, especially in a world often defined by guardedness. It opens the door for others to meet you where you truly are.
That's a huge shift in perspective. But practically speaking, how do we apply this idea of authenticity and vulnerability, especially maybe when first meeting someone? It still feels risky. The book highlights that your humanity, your realness, is precisely what makes people care enough to listen. It also dives into the science of nonverbal cues that signal openness and approachability. Little things like giving a hearty smile, maintaining good eye contact, maybe 70, 100%, but not staring, obviously, and unfolding your arms. These are all signals that say, hey, I'm approachable.
Body language matters.
Absolutely. Furthermore, the source discusses the importance of adapting your communication style subtly. Keith describes how he adjusts his naturally gregarious and fun approach when he's meeting with, say, hard-driving and analytical investment bankers. He becomes more deliberate, more precise. The idea is to be a kind of mirror to the person you're speaking with, subtly matching their cadence, their body language, just to make them feel comfortable. But importantly, without being disingenuous. This is all about being sincere, making others feel special by genuinely focusing on them. Dale Carnegie's timeless principles are highlighted here too. Things like become genuinely interested in other people, be a good listener, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. These are foundational people-centered skills, or getting along skills, that really determine who gets ahead. This emphasizes that authentic connection is really a blend of internal vulnerability and external communication mastery. It allows you to genuinely connect while skillfully adapting to the dynamics of any interaction. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. We live in what the book calls the connected age. Information is flowing constantly, digitally. In this vast online landscape, how does someone stand out? How do you build trust and truly make an impact online?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The source unequivocally states that content is the one true vehicle for building trust online. It's described as the primary way people come to know who you are, what you're about, what you want, what you can provide, whether you're cool, etc. This content, articles, blog posts, social media updates, whatever builds this data trail of your life online. But crucially, this content needs to be infused with what the authors call GVAC. That stands for generosity, vulnerability, accountability, and candor.
GVA. Okay, got it.
Yeah. The book emphasizes resisting that urge to present a perfect online persona, which so many people mistakenly believe builds trust. Instead, it argues that sharing your humanity, including your struggles, your imperfections, is actually far more powerful. As James Altucher is quoted saying, "Your admission that you too are human, that makes them trust you about everything else." End quote. This kind of authentic sharing cuts through the tight boundaries and, frankly, the dishonesty often found online. It makes you stand out and builds genuine connection. The core insight is, in the digital age, your content infused with generosity, vulnerability, accountability, and candor, GVAC, is your most powerful tool for building trust and a compelling personal brand.
This is where it gets really strategic, though. It's not just what you post, but how you manage and present it, right? The book suggests becoming your own editor-in-chief, really thinking strategically by creating a consistent editorial schedule for your content. A fantastic example given is the Skull a Day project by Noah Scanlon. Remember that. He committed to making and posting a skull every single day for a year.
Yeah, I remember that. It got huge.
Totally. That consistent, unique output garnered a massive following, even led to published books. It just demonstrates the power of a distinct, sustained content strategy. The source also highlights the subtle but important shift for online posts. Instead of just posting what's on your mind, try focusing on what's got your attention. This encourages you to give readers useful, actionable value judgments rather than just trivial updates about your lunch. It explicitly encourages co-creation too, inviting others to be part of your content process. That naturally increases engagement and ensures relevance for the audience because, well, they helped create it. And of course, don't forget the undeniable power of visual content. Posts with photos catch your eye and pack an emotional punch, even if it's just a glimpse of the life behind the resume. It's really about being sincere, letting your authentic self, with all its struggles and humanity, be visible. Keith shares his own story of a marketing debacle where a pushy sales campaign alienated his audience until he course-corrected back to generosity and candor. This shows that building a powerful online presence involves treating your content like a professional publication. Strategic, consistent, collaborative, and deeply human.
Okay, so given the vastness of this connected age, this raises an important question. Who specifically should we be trying to connect with to maximize our impact and access to information? The Force identifies these people called super connectors, individuals who just know many, many more people than the rest of us. You often find them in professions like headhunting, lobbying, politics, journalism, and also as authors, bloggers, gurus. Their roles just inherently require these extensive networks. But crucially, the book also introduces the powerful concept of the strength of weak ties, building on sociologist Mark Granovetter's research.
Ah, yes, weak ties. That's fascinating.
It really is. This theory basically posits that acquaintances, your weak ties, often provide more valuable new information or job opportunities than your close friends, your strong ties. Why? Because your close friends tend to inhabit the same world as you, often sharing information you already know. Your weak ties, however, generally occupy a very different world than you do, giving them access to an entirely different inventory of knowledge and information. It really pays to talk to strangers, essentially. The historical example of Paul Revere versus William Dawes illustrates this beautifully. Revere's success in spreading the alarm came from his extensive network of weak ties in every village. He didn't need strong one-to-one connections everywhere. The core insight here is fundamental. Strategically engaging with super connectors and leveraging the strength of weak ties are crucial for accessing diverse information and unlocking unforeseen opportunities that lie beyond your immediate circle.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit more strategically, connecting with super connectors and leveraging those weak ties. How do we do that? The book advises actively building relationships with these super connectors. For journalists, for instance, it's about being a willing and accessible source of information, consistently offering inside scoops, and importantly, never saying no comment.
Be helpful to them.
Exactly. For authors and bloggers, it suggests becoming their most charming stalker online. Not creepy stalker, but engaging thoughtfully, listening to what they're saying, weighing in over time, and watching for those in-person opportunities at conferences or book signings. The discussion about Robert Scoble is pretty striking. He's described as a master of curating a massive fringe network, like 40,000 hand-added Twitter followers, 400,000 outbound connections. This emphasizes leveraging the intelligence of a crowd that scales well beyond the number of actual relationships you can cultivate. Your network becomes a petri dish for ideas, constantly feeding you valuable intelligence.
Using the network as a sensor.
Precisely. LinkedIn, for example, is presented as almost the holy grail of networking for its ability to map not just your network, but entire industries. It lets you identify those second and third degree connections and make quality introductions. The advice: schedule time to send personalized invites. Make at least one quality introduction a month. It's about building this dense network with you at the center, acting as a sensor for new ideas and opportunities. Whether that's connecting job hunters with job seekers via headhunters, supporting lobbyists' causes, or engaging with politicians early in their careers. This illustrates that proactively cultivating relationships with super connectors and leveraging weak ties, both online and off, transforms your network into a dynamic intelligence hub.
You know, we often hear about lucky breaks in successful people's careers, right? As if fortune just randomly smiles upon them. The book, however, argues pretty compellingly the luck can actually be engineered. So how do we actively create those fortuitous moments? How do we shape our own serendipity?
Engineering luck. I like the sound of that.
Me too. What's truly striking here is the idea that fortune prefers the networked mind. The source uses the story of Pam Roizen. She was an English major who deliberately chose to move to Palo Alto. Why? Because it was where her life and her network were, as well as the burgeoning Silicon Valley business community. Irv. This strategic geographical choice, combined with her intentional network building, allowed her to, quote, run with the CEO position when it came her way, and ultimately sell her software company for big bucks. This really highlights the proactive shaping of your environment and your network to put yourself squarely in the path of opportunity.
So being in the right place intentionally.
Exactly. And travel, like Ferrazzi's own trips to Guatemala, is also presented as a powerful way to inject diversity into the system. It sparks creativity by exposing you to new people, new ideas, different walks of life. There's even an MIT study mentioned that supports this, showing how interacting with a diverse range of people in urban areas, even if they aren't close friends, brings new ideas and opportunities. This goes way beyond just passive observation. It's about actively, deliberately putting yourself in the path of opportunity. The core insight is, serendipity isn't just random, it's engineered. It comes from consciously positioning yourself within diverse, active networks and proactively creating opportunities for those unexpected beneficial collisions.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, in terms of actively amplifying your connections and engineering your own luck? How do you do that? It means consciously playing host sometimes, even creating your own conference within a conference, particularly at large events. This involves maybe scouting out nice restaurants nearby, sending out pre-invites for private dinners or drinks, and inviting a diverse mix of people, ideally with some anchor tenants or speakers to draw others in. A key skill highlighted is the deep bump.
The deep bump.
Yeah. It's described as a brief but sincere interaction that creates instantaneous warmth and connection. Apparently, former President Bill Clinton is a master of this, often using two hands for a handshake, making direct eye contact while asking a personal question, immediately making the other person feel important and seen. And the book emphatically states that the breaks at conferences are where the real work happens. Don't just retreat to your room. Instead, you should stake out the right place near the food, the bar, reception, and start bumping. Start interacting. This deliberate effort to engage, make introductions, serve as a center of influence by connecting others that creates the precise conditions for serendipity to occur. It's also about managing your own media, making calls to reporters, having lunch with them, sending press releases, becoming an accessible source for their stories, all to generate buzz for your personal brand. This really drives home that you can actively curate lucky encounters by strategically positioning yourself, making deliberate introductions, and fostering those spontaneous, sincere interactions.
Okay, this brings up a really important question, especially given everything we've discussed. In pursuing all these connections, living this intensely relationship-driven life, how on earth do we maintain any sense of balance? The source directly challenges the very idea of balance as a myth. It quotes Ferrazzi saying, "You can't call my schedule balanced by conventional standards." And it gives this vivid example of his own jam-packed schedule starting at 4 a.m., flying across the country, constantly on calls, organizing events. It sounds exhausting. This perspective radically reframes that traditional notion of balancing work and personal life as these separate entities you have to juggle. Instead, it suggests that when your career and personal life are deeply intertwined through meaningful relationships, the concept of balance as some compartmentalized equation becomes irrelevant, maybe even detrimental to true fulfillment. The core insight here is pretty provocative. The pursuit of traditional work-life balance is basically a myth. True fulfillment comes from integrating your life and career through meaningful relationships, effectively blurring the lines between personal and professional.
So let's unpack that a bit more, this idea that balance is BS, as the book puts it. The core message seems to be, for me, the best thing about a relationship-driven career is that it isn't a career at all. It's a way of living. The distinction between professional and personal just blurs when the key to your life was the relationships in it. So instead of rigidly compartmentalizing, this is work time, this is personal time, you bring the same values, the same principles of generosity, sincerity, connection to all your relationships, family, friends, colleagues.
It's a holistic approach.
Exactly. The book argues that feeling out of control or maybe not having more fun isn't actually solved by trying to simplify or reduce your life. It's solved by having more people in it specifically, people you love and genuinely enjoy working with. The problem, as the authors see it, often isn't what you're working on, it's whom you're working with. Exactly. Dr. Will Miller and Glenn Sparks are cited, arguing that despite increased mobility and all our online distractions, many people actually lead lives of relative isolation. So the solution then isn't less connection, it's more connection, especially with people who genuinely enrich your life, people who make your work feel less like a chore and more like a fulfilling part of your overall existence. This highlights that true life satisfaction in a relationship-driven career isn't about rigid compartmentalization, but about intentionally filling your life, work included, with people you love and enjoy collaborating with.
Yeah, and building right on that idea of interdependence and the integrated life, the book covers the crucial role of mentorship quite extensively. But it's not just about finding a mentor, is it? There's more to it. What's fascinating here is how mentorship is described. It's called a lifelong process of giving and receiving in a never-ending role as both master and apprentice.
Master and apprentice, both roles.
Exactly. The source emphasizes that no process in history has done more to facilitate the exchange of information, skills, wisdom, and contacts than mentoring. But it's depicted as a two-way street. Ferrazzi himself notes that his own young mentees help him update his skills and view the world anew. This fundamentally challenges that traditional, maybe one-sided view of mentorship. It illustrates that the teacher often learns just as much, if not more, from the student. It's about actively seeking out great people, great teachers, yes, but also actively investing in those relationships, like Ferrazzi's unique deal with Pat LeConto, the Deloitte CEO, for 3 dinners a year at a specific restaurant. That was a structured way to ensure ongoing guidance and connection. The core insight is, mentorship is a reciprocal, lifelong process. Both mentor and mentee continually learn, grow, and exchange value, fostering this dynamic cycle of wisdom and connection.
So what does that mean for you, the listener, in practical terms? How do you engage in the cycle? It means mentorship isn't passive. It means actively seeking out those above you who can guide you, yes, offering your help, showing your interest, but it also means looking back to help others who are coming up behind you, recognizing that value exchange. The book states that the loyalty I've gained from placing a person's child in an internship is immeasurable. That's powerful. It's about connecting with people based on shared interests and being genuinely helpful, not just transactional. This is beautifully exemplified by Eleanor Roosevelt. She's presented as a premier practitioner of connecting as the commingling of friendship and mission. She advanced social causes like civil rights and human rights, even when it meant losing friends, facing vicious criticism for going against the tide.
She stuck to her principles.
Absolutely. Her enduring legacy stems from her principles driving her connections. It shows that true influence comes from integrating your values into your network. This also echoes Adam Grant's research on givers, takers, and matchers, right? Where the most successful people tend to be the strategic givers, those who benefit in the long run by helping others without keeping score. The takeaway is clear. True leadership and lasting influence come from actively participating in a continuous cycle of mentorship, both seeking guidance and offering it, driven by genuine interest and a shared purpose.
Okay, but this raises a really important question about the potential pitfalls of success, the mindset required to sustain influence long term. The source offers a crucial cautionary tale about what not to do and how not to act, and it's encapsulated in this principle: never give in to hubris.
Ah, hubris, the downfall of many.
Indeed. Ferrazzi recounts this early, frankly embarrassing story from his Yale days. He admits insecurity, not confidence, drove him to trumpet my awards and failed to recognize those who had helped make them possible. This hubris led directly to a public embarrassment involving a famous alumnus, Bill Buckley, when a fundraising pledge kind of unraveled due to Keith's miscommunication and, well, lack of humility. This highlights a critical insight. The closer you get to powerful people, the more powerful you tend to feel. And that feeling can easily lead to arrogance and alienation. The core insight is stark. Humility isn't merely polite. It's the absolute bedrock of sustainable influence. Arrogance might get you noticed initially, but only genuine gratitude and shared credit truly build lasting loyalty.
Okay, let's unpack that lesson on avoiding hubris, because it's such a powerful counterpoint to just being audacious, isn't it? The lesson Keith learned seems crystal clear. Humility is paramount. Despite his impressive achievements later on back then, his sheer will and ambition alienated a lot of people, specifically because he trumpeted his awards and failed to recognize those who had helped make them possible. So when his brush with fame came to a screeching halt after that Bill Buckley misunderstanding, his friends who had been right there, excited with him before, didn't come to his rescue when he pleaded for them to explain his side. Ouch.
Yeah, that had to hurt. A tough lesson.
A really tough lesson. This deeply personal story underscores that while boldness and ambition are important for initiating connections, they absolutely must be balanced with gratitude, with acknowledging and genuinely valuing those who contribute to your success. It ties directly back to that core generosity principle, doesn't it? True and lasting influence comes not from self-aggrandizement, but from genuinely valuing others and sharing the credit. When you embody humility, people are just more willing to support you even when things go wrong. It can prevent a downfall like that of Michael Ovitz, who apparently wielded his amazing interpersonal skills disingenuously, alienating people he no longer needed. This emphasizes that lasting success is built on a foundation of humility and shared credit, because true influence is sustained by the loyalty and support of those you genuinely value along the way.
Now,
What an incredible deep dive this has been. We've really journeyed from that fundamental belief that relationships are all there is, all the way to the practical strategies of building, nurturing, and leveraging your network for, profound personal and professional success. We've learned about the immense power of generosity, the audacity it takes to ask, and the critical, often overlooked importance of consistent, personalized follow-up. We've seen how your personal brand is built not just on accolades, but really on content infused with that GVAC generosity, vulnerability, accountability, and candor. And we've truly unpacked how to actually engineer serendipity, how to actively become a magnet for opportunity in your life.
indeed. Yeah, this deep dive has really highlighted that our careers, our personal well-being, even our basic sense of happiness are just inextricably linked to the people around us. It's not about isolated individual effort, is it? It's about dynamic interdependence and the community we consciously choose to build. The powerful anecdote of Keith Ferrazzi's own journey, from being a poor kid in a Pittsburgh steel town, feeling intimidated at Harvard Business School, to becoming this successful entrepreneur and connector. It really underscores that everyone has the capacity to be a connector. His story is such a testament to the fact that it's not necessarily innate talent, but deliberate practice, generosity, and that audacious spirit that paved the way. The question now, really, for you listening is, how would you choose to apply this?
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If there's maybe one provocative thought to leave you with, it's this quote from the book. The future is dynamic and not fully in your control. Celebrate that fact instead of fighting it, and life gets a lot more interesting. I love that. And consider this idea of social arbitrage, not in a manipulative way, but as a constant and open exchange of favors and intelligence where your knowledge and your connections become truly valuable currency. How can you become more of a knowledge broker in your own sphere? Actively connecting people and solutions, maybe without even waiting to be asked, making yourself indispensable not by hoarding information, but by freely distributing it. This deep dive has really laid out a roadmap to not just succeed, but to truly flourish in this connected age. How will you begin to garden now, as the book says, and cultivate the treasures waiting in your own backyard?
And just remember, as the Dalai Lama reminds us, whether we like it or not, there is hardly a moment of our lives when we do not benefit from others' activities. For this reason, it is hardly surprising that most of our happiness arises in the context of our relationships with others. That connection, as the book powerfully suggests, should always advance rather than compromise your principles. So as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe ask yourself, how can your networking efforts not only elevate your career, but also genuinely contribute to making the world a little bit better, ensuring your network is built on real trust and maybe a shared mission for good? That ultimately feels like the highest form of connection and success.